Hi, welcome back to Mrs. Wizard's Way. You ready to learn more about photography? Some like these pictures here? Hey, get out of here. Let's get started. So, welcome back. If you didn't watch our first video, Photo Basics, you probably want to go back and do that. There's some really good tips in there that are going to feed into this video just a little bit. They're not dependent upon seeing it first, but it always helps to kind of keep things going in order. Today, I got 5 different tips for you. 5 real easy ones. The first one I have is point of interest. Now you'd be shocked, really? A point of interest? Well, I'm a former high school teacher, and I can't tell you the number of times I got pictures from kiddos and they literally just gave me the picture of a parking lot or a field. And I'm like, what am I looking at? What is the subject here? And they really don't even know what they're doing either. I'm like, do you know what you're doing when you're clicking the button? And so we had to work on that, and usually we got more successful with those kiddos. But point of interest, to force yourself to think, what is it I'm taking a picture of, and how do I put it on to this screen? Now in this case, this is just a horse that had an itchy nose, and he's rubbing his face along the fence post. It was an angle I've never seen before. I've seen a few horses in my day, and I've never seen them rubbing their face like that, at least not when I'm in range with a camera. And I said, this is great. I got to get this on film. And so I did. And so the angle is definitely quirky, definitely interesting, and you definitely know who the subject is in this picture. Let me give you a quick example of how to do this and not to do this. So here we are, ladies and gents. Here are some owls I have in the front of my house. Not bending down, just looking straight down over them. Yeah, I've got a subject, but is it an interesting subject? And really, is it the 2 owls? Which one is it? Is there one over the other that's more important? Is it the little stack of rocks? I don't know. Let's try it again. Now when I get this framed right, doesn't that look better? The taller owl on the right with the little one more into the center. Isn't that a much better subject? We know what is the focus and where to look this time. Adjusting your angle. Now we talked in the last video about getting eye level with our subject, which is super important, but sometimes we don't always have to be eye level. In photography and in most art, we can break the rules, but we do need to know some of the foundations as well to know what is good, what's bad, when can I break them, when should not. So we need to know when to do what, and wish there was a way, yes, thou shalt do it this way. It doesn't really work that way, I'm sorry. But adjusting your angle, and you know what? If you don't know which one to do, try it all sorts of different ways. Take the same thing and try it eye level, try it at a fun angle, try it at a quirky angle, try it at a different angle. And choose the one when you get done, and you can download and take a time to really look at what you took just to see which one you like the best. But in this case, adjusting your angle. So try something that's really tall and look down on it if you can. Or what if you were to take something really small and try and look up at it? Both can be interesting angles. Now, one thing to watch though is make sure you're getting a flattering view. So if you're trying to show a short person looking tall and you're trying to take a picture from like their shoes, you're gonna be looking up their nose. I don't know if they'll appreciate that view, okay? And if you have somebody who's maybe losing a little hair up here, you may not want to show their balding spot. So if you're looking down on them. So be careful with what you're doing, but try something that it's an angle that's different. Rule of thirds. We've talked about this one. This is so important in photography, but it's so easy. You just take the item and you just shift it over to the side. It's really not a very difficult task. Imagine a hashtag or a tic-tac-toe board over your picture and just slide it to one of those intersecting lines. And the example here, you can see that I have that imaginary grid on my screen, and sometimes cameras can put that grid on the screen for you. If you've ever wondered what the heck is this, I can't get rid of this, I hate this thing, that's what it's there for, is to help guide you to possibly using rule of thirds. But this little pink flower that I found in Rocky Mountain National Park, Colorado, was just a simple little flower growing on the side of the path. And I thought, that's really pretty. And I really like taking pictures of nature and flowers. You'll see as we go through the rest of this series. But I also liked how it had like this dead wood in the background. So it's like this contrast between living and dead. But if I had taken the picture of the flower smack dab, X marks the spot in the center, I wouldn't have seen the dead wood in the background. So in this case, just sliding it over just a little bit, tapping on that flower space on the screen to say, yo, this is where I want you to focus, camera, because as much as they call that phone in your pocket a smartphone, it's not very smart, okay? And the camera's not very smart either. So you really have to be the one that's in charge of what's actually happening. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you keep your horizon on the lower side, it will give the feeling of spaciousness. If you give it up on the upper side, it will give a feeling of nearness and intimacy. And one thing you can look, if you actually want to see this illustrated, look at Ansel Adams. Awesome photographer. When he first started off, his horizon lines were up high. As he got older, his horizon lines got lower. And so it was much more, are we focusing on the mountains? Or are we focusing on the sky? You might try it. It's just as simple as tilting your camera up and back a little bit when you're taking your pictures. You can do both at any given moment. Leading lines. Now, this is a great way to pull your viewer into the picture. Just by showing what's in the photo is going to pull them in. Diagonal lines can add an energy. Curved lines can add some soft elegance. Using a road or a path just adds simple depth. And that's what this is. This is just a simple path. You know where this picture was taken? Well, that's just a very low, about 6-inch rock wall next to a path, right next to the parking lot of a trailhead in Colorado. The rocks are there to keep morons from driving off the road into the path. Yeah. Unfortunately, we have to have stuff like this. But because the rocks are there and people have to step over them, it gave a very small little space for those flowers to grow and not get stepped on. And so lucky for us, I was able to bend down. Did I have to bend down? Yep, got on my hands and knees, got this picture again, because again, rock wall is only 6 inches. Flowers are probably about 3-4 inches. Not very big. So, but taking at this angle, I can see the flowers in the front and they slowly go back. They get blurry, a depth of field blur as they go farther away. And not only does it pull the purple pulling you through, but also the striated lines going in the rock also are pulling you into that picture. Did you see that when you first saw it? Yeah, sometimes we have to tell, as the photographer, we tell our viewers what we want them to see without saying it in words. They just have to visualize it. Now remember, I was a high school teacher for a long time, and when I'd ask my students to do a picture with leading lines, you know how many pictures of brick walls I saw? Not exciting brick walls either. They were just brick walls. Mind you, they would stand next to them and they'd get them at an angle, and yes, try and be more inventive than that. You can take nice pictures with something that has lines to it, but don't just say, okay, that was kind of the lazy version for that assignment. But let me go ahead and illustrate that. I'm not even gonna leave this chair. I'm gonna show it to you right on my desk. There we are, ladies and gents. There's my keyboard. No leading lines really there, is there? No, not really, but watch this. All I had to do was move the angle. Instead of going straight on above and straight forward to the shot, let's choose it at an angle. And do those rows of keys create leading lines that pull you back towards that mouse way back there? Sure does. Just that simple. I actually got a photo this morning. I go on a bike ride every day, and I have to walk over a set of railroad tracks. And there's a path. It's not like I'm just going across railroad tracks. But when I got off my bike to walk them across, because it's a pretty rough crossing, I don't want to try and wreck my bike. Done that a few times, got a few scars to show for it. But when I walked across, I looked down, and it was such a hazy morning that it was kind of cloudy. And I just grabbed my camera. It's on my bike. I'm listening to music from it. Bam, got this shot. It was just enough of the lines pulling you in. It just had a really cool feel to it. So I thought, you know what? Let me go ahead and capture that. It took 3 seconds from my trip, and on I went. So including your foreground. This is important in a picture because your photo really needs 3 elements. It needs a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. It needs all 3 of them. Otherwise, the picture is just going to look flat. And while Flat Stanley was a fun book I used to read to my kids when they were little, it's not what we want in our photography. And so how do I show that? How do I make sure I have that? Well, you have to be aware of what's in the shot. Hold the camera up. Do I have those 3 elements? Do I have a foreground, middle ground, background. And in our example picture today, back at the Grand Canyon, and when I looked out, I said, oh, it would be nice if I could frame this shot, because I have a lot of pictures. By then I had a lot of pictures of just the canyon itself, and it just needed something else to it, a little more contrast. I found these trees. Plus it was in the shade because it gets hot there. We were there in the summer. And I said, this looks nice. So I have nice framing on the edges. So I have a foreground. Our middle ground is some of the Grand Canyon, and our background is more of the Grand Canyon and the far, far away part of the Grand Canyon. So yes, I have all three areas in my shot, and the framing helps focus the viewer again into the nice colorful part of the canyon. Do we even see the trees? No, they're in silhouette. They're on the dark side of the light. So we don't really they're not really a part of the main focus. They're just there to help support it, kind of like a supporting actress. That's all 5 of them. Now it's your turn. Practice time. So let's try it. Point of interest. Just give a good subject in a photo. Adjust your angle. Use that rule of thirds again. Leading lines. Have fun with this one. Where can you show that? How can I pull that person into your picture? And including some foreground items. That's all there is. I'd love to see what your work is. Go ahead and find me on Instagram. My handle is Mrs. Car Wizard, and I'd love to see what you got. Again, I'll see you next time. Remember, every Wednesday. Bye.